Welcome to the power of pure presence. Notice the sounds, sights, sensations. Allow this moment to unfold as you join me today. Pause and breathe. If you're just joining for the first time, this is Power of Pure Presence. Recorded, filmed, broadcasted in nature. I join you on a beautiful October autumn day in the northeast part of the United States, and I'll get to that. While this show has very little plan to it, there are some elements that I bring in to augment the experience of the show. Today I do have a poem for you. I have a couple readings, lots of nature, metaphors, to invite you to go deeper into life right now. The whole premise of the show is to live life fully now. That there's no future moment that you're going to get to that is going to validate now. This is the moment that we have. This is the moment where we can concentrate or focus on that which we choose. And as you'll find with the show, the invitation to focus on nothing, to allow content to pour in, and then to create or notice the spaces where there is no content. So I want to invite you to pay attention to your breath right now. We use the breath as a consistent vehicle, if you will, key to allow this moment. Breathe in through our nose. Pause. Exhale. Pause. Breathe in. Belly expands. Pause. Exhale. Notice the pause at the bottom and top of each breath. Pause. Exhale. Pause. And then maybe just allow your breath to be what it will be. Allow the body to open up. Let your body find that natural rhythm of breathing. I'm going to set an intention today that this show is going to be exactly what you need. We're going to trust what I'm going to bring today. And we're going to trust what rises up in the present moment through the chat. I welcome you, if you're listening live, type in just a quick check-in where you are in this moment. You can check in physically. Where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 physically? Emotionally? Welcome in where you are in this moment. How do you feel right now? And then come back to your breath. You'll hear the wind rustling through the trees. And I am going to take a moment to just pan around because the place is beautiful and I want to share it with you right now. So just take a moment, and as we go deeper into the show and we go deeper into this present moment, use this. See what you can notice. Look at the surroundings, look at the colors, breathe. And you have an option. You can set an intention here, or you can just be whatever it is. Just be in the moment. Step out of the judgmental mind of judging yourself, everything that you have to do. This is a sacred space for you to be free, to connect with the deepest part of yourself. I found in my journey that the deepest part of myself is always there. And when I can get out of the habitual identification to the stream of thinking, I can connect to the deeper part of myself, and I can open up to life and allow the moment to unfold at the point it's unfolding. The very moment it's unfolding. I'm going to flip this around because I want you to see this as it. Beautiful place. There's just a natural calming energy. I trust you feel that in me. It's coming across and you're feeling that. Maybe you're starting to feel that calm, despite the occasional plane, right? What did you hear? Did you hear the crow in the background? What's beautiful about this time of year, October, you have this beautiful cornucopia. While it's still pretty green here, you see the colors starting to change, and we're going to talk about what that means, the metaphor of that. You can still hear crickets. They're still awake. They're still making noise. They're still showing up, right? And then there's a moment where they're going to stop. And each year I pay attention. I say, when's that day? What's the day where I'm going to walk out and I'm not going to hear them anymore? Just a way to be present as life unfolds and the seasons change. It's these signs, these symbols, and you may have your own way of identifying the seasons change, the awareness of change. The leaves are a beautiful metaphor of change in the physical sense. I want to talk about that. Did you type in the chat how you feel? Did you check in? Did you experience a change already, perhaps? Did you allow yourself to dial in? Did you notice, just as you noticed the pause at the top and the bottom of each breath, perhaps you noticed a moment when you were in between the thoughts? As I was flipping the camera around, you listened. Perhaps there was a moment where you got out of something that you were thinking about. That's what I'm talking about. It's subtle. Subtle. It's always there. So today's show is about presence and change. And presence is the ongoing theme of the show. And we go back to these tenets over and over again to drive deeper into our psyche. The experience of the mind wants to check off the box, the logical brain to say, I know that, I got that. And we may think we have it intellectually, but the dynamic nature of life shows me through experience that everything is changing. There's a constant change. There's an influx that's always changing, if you will. And can we be open to that? Perhaps you're in a season of change right now. Perhaps you're in a season of change. Let's go to our first part. I want to share a poem with you. And I'm going to share with you the location. I'll just share that now, and then I'll give you more details later. I don't want to leave you hanging here. This is the Rockefeller State Preserve. The Rockefeller State Preserve in New York State, near Tarrytown, New York. And I'll talk more about that. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. You can see some of the rolling hills as nature turns. As the sun has already moved behind the tree leaves, I've felt the change in temperature being in the shade. So let's draw some perspective into today's show with a poem. This is a poem called A Necessary Autumn Inside Each. You and I have spoken all these words, but as for the way we have to go, words are no preparation. There is no getting ready other than grace. Inside each of us, there's a continual autumn. Our leaves fall and blow out over the water. A crow sits in the blackened limbs and talks about what's gone. There's a necessary dying, and then Jesus is breathing again. Very little grows on jagged rock. Be ground, be crumbled, so wildflowers will come up where you are. You've been stony for too long, for too many years. Try something different. Surrender. That was by Rumi. And it's a beautiful poem that draws on many things. And I'm going to add some more context to that for you, because I'll go back and revisit a little bit of it for you, and then we'll pause again. I'll share the location. But as we move through this, it's really important to be checking in with yourself, what's happening in the moment, what's arising in the moment, and then also be aware of the moments where there's nothing. And just notice them. That's the only call to action, is just notice that. Boy, I got a couple great readings here, but I'm going to read this one first. I really like this one. Sorrow, fear, and depression are bits of garbage that are a part of real life, and we must look deeply into their nature. You can practice in order to turn these bits of garbage into flowers. It is not only your love that is organic, your hate is too. Wow. You do not need to throw anything out. All you have to do is learn how to transform your garbage into flowers. And I'm drawing reference on that. There's so many things we can draw from this. And I wrote about this in my new book, Flashpoint, Manifesting the Moment of Your Big Breakthrough. It's called The Polarity Principle and the Art of Transmutation. And this is a beautiful saying that also supports the poem, in that many of the world lives in a state of resistance to what is. We look at hate as shouldn't be, instead of looking at it like he says here. This is Thich Nhat Hanh's reading, by the way. Thich Nhat Hanh reading from these peace cards. They look like this, they're little peace cards. And he says, it's not only your love that is organic, your hate is too. Now think about that. Wait, what do you mean? Like, immediately we're like, whoa, what do you mean hate is organic? Well, it arises up in the human species, doesn't it? So we can resist it and say it shouldn't be, and now we're creating resistance. Or we become in alignment with the present moment, which says that is what's arising in the present moment. And he says here, you don't need to throw anything out. All you have to do is learn how to transform your garbage into flowers. Another example is, what do we use manure for, right? Manure adds nutrients to the soil. Let's go back to the poem. Very little grows on jagged rock. Be ground, be crumbled, so wildflowers will come up where you are. So these two things kind of connect, because if you turn fear and sorrow, hate can be transformed. And then in this case, he says, be ground, be crumbled, so wildflowers will come up where you are. I liken this to, and you could type in the chat, what do you think this means? Before I go into an interpretation here, what do you think that means? I think it's a great metaphor. I liken it to when we let go of our ego. So when he says be ground, be crumbled, to me, it's the crumbling of the agenda that we've been hyper-focused on. It's got to be this way, to the point of obsession that's causing us stress and anxiety. And unbeknownst to us, it becomes jagged and rigid in its approach. Hence, very little grows on jagged rock. Be ground, be crumbled. Let go of your ego. Let it dissolve. And then the final word is surrender, right? So wildflowers will come up where you are. I love that he uses wildflowers. Think how exotic and beautiful wildflowers are. They're natural. They come up without effort, right? They just come up when we allow. And that's where he goes on to say, you've been stony for too many years. Try something different. Surrender. And it's the necessary autumn in all of us. And to me, this is not about the ego being bad. It's the recognition of, it's the awareness of. The ego is organic, just like hate is organic. And we're not here to fight the ego or even call it bad. We're simply here to harness power of pure presence. And presence is the light that shines on the ego and says, there you are. And then you can step out of the noise of the mind. So many years I was identified to the thought formations of the way I defined myself. And while they're important, the power of the show here, power of pure presence, is to connect with the deeper, unchanging part of you. And if you've never felt it, it will feel strange, and it might even feel scary, because it could be vulnerable, perceived vulnerability. What happens if I let go of my ideologies, my thoughts, my ideas, my beliefs of the things that I hold to be true, near and dear to my heart? And again, it's not to let those things go. It's to connect to something deeper that's always there. I'm going to pause. I want you to reflect on this poem. Again, there's so many things in here, and I'll just go through quick. You and I, as I'm reading it again, because I think it's worth reading again, I want you to think about what rises up in you, and feel free to type that in the chat, because other people are feeling and thinking things right now too about this, interpretations, if you will. And I want you to be able to see what rises up in you organically. You and I have spoken all these words, but as for the way we have to go, words are no preparation, void of thinking, void of thought concept. There is no getting ready other than grace. We say in our community, give yourself time, space, and what? Grace. Time, space, and grace. Give yourself time, space, and grace. Inside each of us, there's a continual autumn. Our leaves fall and are blown out over the water. A crow sits in the blackened limbs and talks about what's gone. Think about that, the continual autumn within us, right? If we become aware of this constant death and, this birth and death, the birth of thought concepts, the birth of expectations, but then there's the death of them. And the more you harness power of pure presence, the more you can dance with life, liberated and free, even in the letting go of what you thought it was going to be. And then the crow represents what? It could represent a person who is continually talking about what's gone. It used to be this way. Benjamin Franklin said the golden age was never the present age. The golden age was never the present age. Why? Because we romanticize about the past. We fantasize about the future. And then meanwhile, the present moment waits for us to step fully into it and live life fully now. There's a necessary dying, just like your skin cells die, just like the leaves are die. I'm going to talk about that after I come back from the break here. There's a necessary dying, and then Jesus is breathing again. He talks about Jesus. Think about the death of the self. And in the spiritual context, if we talk about the spiritual journey, right? The death of self and the being reborn again. Then Jesus is breathing again. Powerful metaphor. Very little grows on jagged rock. Be ground, be crumbled, as so wildflowers will come up where you are. You've been stony and maybe I'm speaking directly to somebody right now. I'm speaking directly to you. You've been stony for too many years. Try something different. Surrender. 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 Let go and let God. There's a force much greater than your ego. Let's do it right in this moment. I'm going to stand up. We're going to take a break. I'm going to talk about the power of the metaphor of the seasons and the leaves. I might even move to get out in the sun a little bit just because I'm a little chilly. So let's do it. Just open up to this moment. That's all you have to do. Just allow. Whatever arises, the noise of the engine, whatever arises up in you, just simply notice it. See if you can just notice it. All right. And here's a great metaphor for the jagged rock. There you go. Just notice it. You can see the natural beauty of this place. This is the Rockefeller State Preserve. It's near Tarrytown, New York. It's, let's see, 1893. John D. Rockefeller acquired this property near the Hudson River. And then I believe it started with 300 acres, and then they gradually expanded it, and it kept getting bigger and bigger. And then as of 1983, the state of New York has been deeded, took the deed over to about 1,600 acres. The estate, I believe it's called Kikuit, which was the Rockefeller Mansion, was taken over by the Hudson Valley. I was going to get a tour there, but that'll be another time. And this property was split off from the mansion so that it could be preserved for people like me. And today's actually, even though it's quiet, there's a lot of people here today, but it's such a big area. It's beautiful. Hopefully I'll share a map here. I'm going to have a lot of bonus footage for you today, so definitely stay with the show. You're going to love the surroundings here, especially this time of year. It's really a great way to capture the seasons changing, and I wanted to bring it to you. I hope you're enjoying the show. I also want to take a moment to call out our sponsor, Duchess DJ Love, gallivanting like a royal, and I want to congratulate her because she just continued her sponsorship for another 6 months with our show. And she just finished her book called Traveltude. And I believe at the time of the show here, she's traveling right now out to the Grand Canyon, I believe. You want to definitely follow her. She creates like little blogs and reels and all the travel tips. Her book has travel tips in it, quotes, photos. It's very unique to her, and she wants to share the love through travel and how you can travel like a royal, even if you're on a budget. And she lives and breathes it. So I want to welcome you to check in with her. She might be here in the chat, either live or in the playback. But I want to give another moment. I want you to check in with yourself. This is your journey. I'm hosting the show here. But what's important is your journey. Whether you're live here on the Facebook, YouTube stream, maybe you're getting the playback through Apple TV, Amazon, Fire TV, Roku. We have our own Roku channel now. So I want to welcome in our Roku audience. And wherever you find this, wherever this is reaching you, it could be reaching you on the podcast. really check in with yourself. Self-assessment is so valuable in that we can dial into what's happening in this moment, right? We can dial into a blade of grass behind me. But we can also dial up into what's rising up in us. And sometimes through life, we're not in alignment with what's rising up in us because maybe it comes from a place, a part of us that someone else rejected. And we've learned to reject it ourselves. And it's the equivalent of sticking it in the closet. I want to invite you to check in with what's real for you in this moment. So as we go into the second part of the show, be open. Be open. Think of the clean canvas. Think of Power of Pure Presence is a cleanse of the canvas. You think of a painting with lots of saturated colors, right? And think of those colors as life. The things that have happened through us throughout life, the colors splashed. We have the yellows, the oranges, the reds, the bright spots. But then we have the black, the dark colors, the dark things that may have happened. And then this space, Power of Pure Presence, is when we discover without trying to discover, without forcing, without a mind or a thought intention to get somewhere. We have this opening, this pure space where there's nothing in it, or there could be something in it that's happening in the moment, like the blade of grass behind me, the trees, the crickets. So as we continue and you hear the noises, you hear my voice, you notice the lapse of silence in the show where we pan around. Notice what's happening in you. Do you feel different from when this show first started? Do you feel better? Do you feel something else coming up? Have you given yourself the time to be in the show? Or are you half listening? Are you multitasking? No right or wrong here, just observation. Just observe how you're showing up in this moment. Maybe a sign of how you're showing up in other parts of your life. So for example, are you always multitasking? Are you always half here, half there, a third over there? Do you ever allow the present moment and to be fully in it? Here's the good news. We're going to practice that even more before the show is over. And I'm excited to do it with you because as I host the show, I want to be transparent. I need this show. I need this. And that's why I bring it to you. Because I need it just as much as you. So let's take a nice cleansing breath here in through the nose. Pause. Nice little reset. The leaves, the leaves, the leaves. You can see the leaves. I'll pan around again. The leaves falling, it's a beautiful metaphor of change. And maybe you're going through a season of change right now. Can we look at that? Let's take a look at the leaves. What's happening when leaves fall? What's happening? Well, they change color. They appear to change color. And as I'm here, I'm going to flip this around. The leaves appear to change color. What's really happening is chlorophyll is leaving the leaf. The production of chlorophyll slows. So while the leaves appear to change color, what's really happening is the absence of chlorophyll. And in the absence of chlorophyll, here's the pronunciation. Carotenoids and anthocyanins, I'll have to check the pronunciation, but these are prevalent in leaves. Carotenoids. Carotenoids and anthocyanin. But what's interesting is that it's always there. Those substances are always there. And when the chlorophyll leaves or stops producing, it unmasks. It's a revealing of the carotenoids and the anthocyanin. So it was always there, but it's the absence of chlorophyll that creates the brilliant color. It's almost as if the leaf is getting to its true nature before it dies. There's life. You could call the chlorophyll life, or what life seems to be. Let's look at it another way. What life seems to be could be the chlorophyll. It's green, right? Think about it. Your life, it's green. In other words, it's what it seems to be right now. But then all of a sudden it starts to change. The chlorophyll slows. All of a sudden you notice, it could be a relationship, a job. What was seems to be changing. It seems to be changing, and I'm looking forward to sharing the bonus footage with you toward the end of the show. I'm actually going to I'm going to cut the show a little shorter to make more time for bonus footage. As your life begins to change, you might be thinking, oh no. But this is why we're talking about the surrender part. And as the chlorophyll stops, as your life changes, there's something else revealed. But if we're too attached to what is, or we're resistant, we don't allow the gift that the absence of said thing provides. In the case of loss, it's not as simple. And really, I think, depending on your life situation, because there's some things that are easier to let go than others. However, if I could leave anything, it's just the awareness of the process. The pure awareness of the change, and maybe the awareness that nothing's wrong, that there's some peace, that it was supposed to happen this way, even while in the moment it made no sense. And if you're on a longer journey to become in alignment with what has happened, maybe it's just a pure awareness right now that it's changed, that what was no longer will be. It's past. It's gone. Just like the chlorophyll gone. However, can we begin to look around? Can we lift our head up? Can we accentuate? And maybe that's why the leaves are such brilliant color after the green, as a reminder that if we just look up, even though the leaves are falling, it's a beautiful display of color. Beautiful dance with life. And somehow there's beauty there, you know? And I hope that's touching you now. I want to grab another piece for you here. Everything is impermanent. When we look deeply at the nature of things, we see that, in fact, everything is impermanent. Nothing exists as a permanent entity. Everything changes. It is said that we cannot step into the same river twice. If we look for a single permanent entity in a river, we will not find it. The same is true of our physical body. There is no such thing as a self, no absolute permanent entity to be found in the element we call body. In our ignorance, we believe that there is a permanent entity in us, and our pain and suffering manifest on the basis of that ignorance. We touch deeply the non-self nature in us. Let me back up. If we touch deeply the non-self nature in us, we let go of our suffering. Has there been something that you have held on to for too long? Is there something you're holding on to now? Are you perhaps living in a state of resistance? I'm going to go back to what I said. Just be aware of it. Just observe that it's there. That's the first step. You may say, well, how do I get out of this? How do I change this? Fair questions. And I say, for me, I say, the how is revealed when you pour the full light of awareness on what is. And the how seems to grow just like the wildflowers. As referenced in the poem. This is my new book. It's called Flashpoint, Manifesting the Moment of Your Big Breakthrough. It's the precursor, if you will, to Power of Pure Presence, which is going to be a book coming out in 2023. But I want to point out that it so beautifully talks about the polarity principle, that everything in the universe is transmutable. You know, imagine if I don't accept the leaves changing. How crazy would that be if I sat here and said, no, you can't change, you got to stay green. I can't make chlorophyll produce all year long. I can't do it. Maybe I can get into a lab, maybe I can manipulate it, maybe I can, sure, I can do that, right? I could manipulate it outside of the rhythm of nature. That would be possible in some way, but I'd be manipulating it, right? But if I'm in a state of the natural rhythm of life in nature, it's supposed to be that way. It's filled with life, right? It bursts with life. It manifests, it comes to fruition, and then it begins to wane, and then it dies and is let go. And as it is with everything in life, are you feeling the power of the metaphor today? Are you feeling the power of the metaphor? And if you're in a state of resistance and you're saying, maybe you went through a loss or a tough time and you're still having a tough time with it, I want you to honor that. That's the grace part. Remember in the poem, no words can prepare us but grace. You see how powerful that poem is now. Grace is the answer when you're in a state of resistance. Awareness, grace, awareness, grace, awareness, grace, awareness, grace. And I'm saying it because a lot of times the human condition is awareness, fear, judgment, anxiety. Think about it. Well, if I become aware of that part of myself, I don't want to go there. It's weak, it's vulnerable, fear, harsh judgment on the way I've handled life, anxiety springs up. Awareness and grace. A powerful combination. A powerful force in your life. Void of manipulation, void of judgment, void of having to do something. Void of feeling the need to manipulate. You have been stony for too many years. Try something different. Surrender. Couldn't have planned it this way if I tried. It's so beautifully synchronized together, today's message. I talk about the polarity principle. I talk about transmutation in the book. I talk about getting free, staying present, moving forward. And I'm happy to say, as a little plug for the book here, this book, Flashpoint, is the moment of your big breakthrough. It's the moment of the breakthrough. It's the awareness of the breakthrough moments in your life, albeit they're different for everybody. But what I want to share, what I wrote in this book, and why I'm excited to share it, John D. Rockefeller's Flashpoint. John D. Rockefeller is still a very prominent figure, even though he's long gone. And he's still a very controversial figure to this day. But there was a moment that he had in his life. John D. Rockefeller's Flashpoint, near-death flashpoint for the richest man in history. And as I sit on his former property, it's incredible to be able to share this. I'm not going to read the story. It's in the book. That would take up too much time. But it is a powerful, powerful story that most people don't know about John D. Rockefeller. I'm just holding up the book here. The Flashpoint book is in beta right now. At the time of this broadcast, it will be released December of 2022. Stay tuned for that book. And then 2023, I'll be releasing Power of pure presence. Live life fully now. 365 days and ways to live in the moment. I'm excited and eager to do that book. I already have a lot of the concepts drawn. But let's take some time here to wrap up the show. Again, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Duchess DJ Love, gallivanting like a royal, and congratulate her again on her book, Traveltude. It's been an honor to be with you today. I'm going to allow for some space. I'm going to transition into the bonus footage today, and I trust that you feel the calm of this space. Allow yourself to pause and breathe. Pause and breathe. And one final thought I want to give you. If you're in a situation where you're not sure why something is happening and you're struggling to let go, life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your own consciousness. How do you know this is the experience you need? Because this is the experience you are having at this moment. And that's from Eckhart Tolle's Oneness with All Life. I want to thank you for being here today. Sending you lots of love. And I want to invite you to take whatever happened here today, take it with you. Harness the power of pure presence in your daily life. Pause and breathe throughout the day. Notice the seemingly insignificant moments and exaggerate them, the blade of grass blowing in the wind. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to say goodbye. And I hope you enjoy the bonus footage. Bye for now.